Earlier this week, NBC News reported that Aurora, Colorado was to be one of 3 cities that would face large-scale immigration arrests. But sources later told NBC that the crackdown in Aurora was postponed due to media leaks. You'll remember that during the 2024 presidential campaign, then-candidate Donald Trump singled out Aurora, Colorado as a, quote, war zone where apartment buildings had been overtaken by Venezuelan gangs. He promised mass deportations of undocumented immigrants, starting with violent criminals. Now that he's president, Trump is wasting no time putting his promise of deportations into action. But the definition of who will be deported has expanded, and it's sending a chill through immigrant communities across the country. Their fear of coming forward could have real consequences for law enforcement, who must keep communities safe while investigating crimes that put them at risk. Joining me now is Brian Mason, District Attorney for Colorado's 17th District. District Attorney Mason, thank you very much for being here. And you're part of Aurora is in your district. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so in my introduction, I put a focus on the impact of what President Trump is doing around the country, the impact that's having on local communities, on immigrant communities. What impact are you hearing or seeing in your community as a result of what President Trump has been doing?
My greatest fear about this enhanced deportation policy that the administration is pursuing is its impact on my ability to keep our community safe. What do I mean by that? My job as a local prosecutor is to charge criminals who have committed violent crimes. I have to prove those cases, though. And in order to prove those cases, I have to have the cooperation of the victims of those crimes and witnesses. When a victim of a crime is afraid to come to the courthouse in Adams County because ICE is patrolling the parking lot, as they allegedly were this week, that impacts my ability to keep our community safe. When witnesses won't come to court because they're afraid that they're going to get deported, then I have to dismiss those cases. And if we're dismissing cases or giving sweetheart deals on cases because our evidence has been dramatically undermined, that means I can't keep our community safe. And these are people that we prosecute who aren't necessarily immigrants. These are American citizens who commit violent crimes against other immigrants. And when those victims or witnesses are too fearful to cooperate, then that hurts local law enforcement's ability to do our jobs.
So help me understand. So ICE was supposed to be in Aurora and they postponed. They didn't cancel, they postponed. But when they do undertake their operations in Aurora, in your district, how does that impact you? Meaning the DA's office, do you participate? How does that work?
We do not. My job as a district attorney has really no role at all in federal immigration enforcement. And I think the federal government needs to enforce federal immigration law, particularly when it comes to violent criminals who have gotten their due process, who have been convicted of a crime, and if in fact that happens, then they should be deported. Again, my concern is my ability to keep the community safe. But we don't have a role, nor will we have a role, in federal immigration enforcement.
Now, we talked earlier in the show about we were supposed to, about the OMB freeze, saying that all federal assistance, it seemed like a total lockdown of federal funding for programs throughout the country. Did that have any kind of impact on your office?
I spent my entire day on Tuesday, Jonathan, trying to figure out if I could still pay my grant-funded employees or if I had to let them go. We get grant funding from the federal government that specifically funds domestic violence programs. Domestic violence programs that identify victims of violence who have the highest lethality risk, i.e. they are the most at risk of being killed, and get them immediate services. That temporary cut for just that day in grant funding dramatically impacted our ability to serve those victims and to keep the community safe. And the employees who work on that are critical to our mission of protecting the community.
I'm sure you don't have anything that you can or want to say about what's happening over at DOJ, but the idea that experienced prosecutors, experienced investigators are being purged from their jobs for doing their job and trying to uphold the Constitution. What kind of chill might that send through your profession real fast?
I've been a prosecutor for over 18 years. Experience in this profession matters. Skill in this profession matters. When you lose people with those skills, with that institutional knowledge, it makes the country less safe.
Brian Mason, thank you very much. And for folks who are watching, if he looks familiar, it's his twin brother is Jeff Mason, who's a great White House reporter here in Washington. Thank you very much for being here.